Hello, everyone. It's Dean from Central Nervous Systems. Today, we're going to go through our landed cost app, and that's going to have a starting page that looks like this. But before we jump into it, I'm going to give a brief introduction on some of the preliminary setup that would occur in MISys normally before the landed cost app would actually be used. In this case, we're going to start by entering a PO the way we normally would. I've got a PO here set up in our sample company for Marshall Davidson. We're going to order some of this item I-13, 8,000 pieces at 55 cents a unit. I'm going to open the PO, and from there I'll move into additional costs where I'll put in an assumed amount of freight charge that I'm going to be paying FedEx. And here I've put in $400. That might be exactly accurate. That might be something that's higher or lower. Because we tend not to know exactly what the freight charges are going to be. The number that you put in here most likely will be a best guess or an amount that you want to apply as a landed cost. So in this case, I'll put in 400 and I'll prorate that $400 by quantity onto this line. You could prorate by quantity. You could prorate by weight if you have item weight set up. You can also manually prorate if you've got multiple line items on the PO. Those options are available. In this case, the $400 will be 100% applied to this line item. And how we're going to calculate landed cost app is by saying that we've got $400 divided by 8,000 pieces, 5 cents per unit, added to the price of 0.55 cents, brings my landed cost price to 60 cents a unit for this end cap. So since the PO is released, it's ready to be received. I'm going to close out MISys because I've only got one license. Head into my landed cost app, which will most likely be the app that's on your receiving dock or in your shipping office. Log in. From here, depending on your user login, you'll have a bevy of settings that you can change or access. Since I'm an admin, I've got the ability to look at the roles and rights that are within this app. I have the ability to do PO receiving and PO returns, as well as change some of the system settings that are available. You may restrict some of these functions to different users based on who that user is, but for the most part, these are the settings. So your receiver will be able to jump into PO receiving, and they've got two options to drill down into that PO. If they open up vendor, they'll see the list of vendors that have open POs. If they open up POs, they'll see the list of open POs. In this case, I'm going to select the vendor. It should narrow the list down to what's open for that vendor and hit receive. From there, it'll take me to the receiving page. So as we calculated, we've got that PO price there, 55 cents. We've got a landed cost price of 5 cents higher than that at 60 cents. From here, we can put in things like a BL number. And just like MISys, when we select this checkbox, it'll populate the received quantity with the balance amount, just like in MISys. In this case, I'm going to receive the full amount, and I'm going to put a comment in here to indicate that. If I wanted to, I could change the quantity to receive, but in this case, I'll receive the full amount so that we could see the calculations. And from there, I will post the receiving. So when the receiving is posted, you'll get a verification message. In this case, PO10 or P10 received I-13, received 8,000 of 8,000. And the landed cost app also has the ability to send a verification email to a purchaser or a front desk, or send an email to any other parties that need to be notified I don't have that set up in this, but you do have that ability. I'm going to log off of the landed cost app, and I'm going to log back into MISys just so that we can see what happened. Go into purchasing, open that up. We'll see here that we had an initial amount ordered of 8,000 and we've got received 8,000 with a balance of 0. The comment applies. Comment gets populated with full amount, updated there. The notes, if you had any, would be there. Another thing we're going to look at is we're going to head over to our accounting reports just to see how things applied there. Further breakdown of how the accounting gets sorted out based on your costing method in MISys will be delivered in subsequent videos if you wanted to take a look at those. But a brief overview, in this sample company, I've got average costing, and from there I'm going to open up the subledger report. So here we go. And I'll just refresh here that we had a purchase of I-13 that debited inventory at the average cost, because this is under average pricing, average costing method in MISys. So that debited inventory at $3,700. It then credited our purchase order liability for the full $4,800, which, if you remember, that was $4,400 extended price for the product, 8,000 pieces at 55 cents each, plus $400 of landed cost. And then the variance between the value of the inventory that was received at average costing against the liability of the PO went to the purchase price variance account. So $1,085 there. And again, just like with all average cost receivings or manufacturing order processing, an adjust cost transaction takes place to recalculate the new average for that item. And those are flown through on these adjust cost transactions at each location against the adjust cost variance account. So that is the general accounting that takes place behind the scenes when you do a receiving. The landed cost app also has the ability to do returns. We can go through that as well. I'll close this out. I'll log back into my landed cost app. We'll head over to PO return, and just like with PO receivings, we'll be able to select a vendor and select the PO ID. This screen will only show you PO transactions for POs that are still open but are received. And so in this case, the return provides you with the maximum return quantity. We can put in a return BL. We can checkbox the items that we want to return. Return in full. 8,000 pieces is what we want to return. And I'll go ahead and post that. And just like with receivings, we'll get that verification message, P10, I-13, return 8,000 of 8,000. Log off my landed cost app. I'll log back into my MISys. Quickly look up that PO. And we'll see that the received amount went to 0, and my balance went back up to 8,000. We'll have a look at the accounting behind the scenes, and there will be further videos if we want to go through the different scenarios of how to set up the POs the right way to apply these landed costs, and how to do multiple receivings and multiple returns against POs through the landed cost app in subsequent videos. And again, we will be going through more of the accounting related transactions that happen behind the scenes in further depth in subsequent videos and demonstrations. But just the brief overview, if we look at the journal, we'll see that inventory come out now at the revalued average cost. We'll see that variance get credited for the difference, and we'll see that liability come out. So the difference here is that the landed cost app assumes that those additional costs are not refundable. So when we received at the PO extended cost plus the additional cost, so $4,800. But when we returned, it assumed that that additional cost was not refundable, and it only returned the PO price extended out, $4,400, and that's why there's a $400 difference in the purchase liability, because it assumes that you're still going to get billed for that freight. And that summarizes the basics of the landed cost app, and we hope to hear more feedback and questions from you. All right then, take care.